stay up in the upper half of the emotional scale. I know about meditation. I use the Abraham meditation app from time to time. Are there other...
So take a subject, give us an emotion that you know is on the lower half of the emotional scale and speak it, and we'll show you.
Eating carbs, I feel...
Guilty
and fear of gaining the weight that I've worked so hard to release.
All right, so there's this food that I know has carbs, and I'm drawn to it because it's satisfying. Now, why is it satisfying? Why would anything be satisfying? In the most base part of the Abraham philosophy, why does anything feel satisfying? Because you're on the same vibrational wavelength as your inner being. So that means your inner being's not protesting it. Feels satisfying. So here it is. It's there for you to choose, and you feel called to it, not just because it tastes good, but because your cells want it. Even a Twinkie has stuff in it your cells want. So there's this impulse, and during the impulse, you remember where you've been trending and you feel guilty. So now you're guilty, not satisfied. So how's anything that you're doing when you're guilty, not satisfying, going to turn out? Because you're blocking your trillions of cells' ability to utilize it in the way that your cells would utilize it otherwise. There are thoughts running around the room all over the place that go something like, but what about people who eat ground glass and drink Clorox? Of course there are extremes. We're not asking you to test yourself to those extremes, but we are asking you to, one thing at a time, allow yourself some satisfaction. Soothe yourself. You see, you've been facers of reality for so long, and a human environment that for the most part is trying to control the behavior of each other through threats rather than through rewards. You have even, as mankind, assigned characteristics to God that could never apply. You've given him vengeance and retribution and punishment. Because you're nowhere near that vibration, you have let people be surrogates or messengers of God who are coming from the lower half of the chart. And so you're giving God a bad rap, because that non-physical energy is love and upliftment and refreshment and replenishment. And so in a similar way, that's all of what deprivation is about. Punishment and struggle is about depriving yourself of clarity and energy and resources. This alignment that we talk about all of the time is what replenishment is. When you are allowing yourself to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, not only does it feel good because it's satisfying, it's a replenishing time. So there's replenishment and deplenishment. There's depriving and enlivening. There's allowing and there's resisting. It gets easier and easier to sort it all out. And so you can't all of a sudden take these words and then just run out in your world, in your life, and say, I have a whole new action stance I'm going to do. I'm going to start eating all of those things that I've been not allowing myself to eat, because if you eat them and still feel uncomfortable about them, you've accomplished nothing. And everything will give you exactly what you expect it to give you, you see. So it's sort of like reworking some things, but it's not as much or as hard as it sounds, because you already know so much. You know that your inner being exists, and you know that you are an extension of source energy, and you know that you are a cellular manifestation, but you know that before that you are a vibrational manifestation. And you know that there are cooperative components in the vortex, and you must know that there are cooperative components in your body. And you must know that you have the ability through inspiration to gather the cooperative components, the food combining. How did humans learn to eat anyway? In other words, you did the best with what you had, and some of you were tuned in and discovered good results from things. But now you live in a world where almost everything is possible, and you're in a state of confusion about what to eat. And some of it is full of chemicals and things that never will go together. The simpler you eat, the more organic you eat, the more natural you eat, the better chance you have of the food combining and the cooperative components taking place. The concoctions that people make for you to drink, they are foreign to a cellular body. It's like asking your cellular body to reformat itself to things that people have decided in a chemical laboratory will be good for you to eat. You're not getting inspiration from your inner being about that, you see. You might, in a condition where there was nothing else to drink or eat, your inner being would be all over that. That's the path of least resistance. But that's not the path of least resistance when you have other choices available, you see. So what we're really talking about, and we really like having this conversation, we're talking about from where you stand in any point in time, what's the path of least resistance for you to get to where you want to be? And your inner being is not ever going to say to you, not one time ever, you've got to figure it all out at once. It's just what feels best from where I stand. And so in an environment where there is so much to choose from, it's easy to get confused. But your inner being is not ever confused. So start by asking for some clarity. Make a decision that you're going to take it easy. Say things to yourself like, I don't have to figure it out all at once. Say things to yourself like, I have a very resilient body. My body is very resilient. It can make something good out of everything. And then this is the big piece that we're asking of you, of all of you, really. Ask yourself, in the middle of every decision, what's the satisfaction factor here? I'm required to go to a family reunion. Everybody has to go, or mama will be mad, or. What's the satisfaction factor? I have never, ever in my whole life had a good time at one of these reunions. What's the satisfaction factor? What's the likelihood of there being satisfaction there? Well, it's not that great. What's the likelihood that I'm going to leave madder than when I got there? Pretty great. Then what are you going to do? Walk right into something that your guidance system is calling you in a different direction? So now we're back to that same subject that we've been on all week here, is who are you calibrating to and why? You're calibrating to someone because they get ornery with you if you don't give them what they want? That's not the way you want to teach your children. You said, I want to teach my children to follow their own guidance. I don't want them to follow me. Well, we're saying the same thing to you about all of this. It's the same thing. Everything's the same thing. That's why we only have one answer. And what's the answer? You've got an inner being who knows you, adores you, knows where you are in relationship to everything you want, and will guide you every step of the way. And you, here it is, you have got to establish a vocabulary with your inner being that you understand. An agreement with your inner being that you understand. And if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would use the emotional vocabulary. We'd be like monkey. We'd look at something because it interests us, not because everybody in the house thinks we're a crazy cat. But we must have always been a crazy cat, or they wouldn't have named us monkey. Helpful?
Yes.
Good.